This is Zichru Simanim Baba Basra Daf Kof Ches, and Kof Ches means kach, to take. In order to remember Daf Kof Ches, we're going to go with not just taking, but pickpocketing. As always, the more outlandish the siman, the easier it will be to remember. So in our mind, we're going to envision a woman pickpocketing her husband, the father. Now, why is this woman resorting to pickpocketing? She's always being a giver and not a taker. She's always being manchil, to bequeath, but she's not being noichel. Now, the father in this picture is quite upset. Why is he upset? Because he's mourning the loss of his son. As you see, the son's money is in his pocket. Now, why is he mourning the loss of his son? Because it's his dear son, and it's dear to him, which shows us that that's the reason the Mishnah has that order, because that which is more chaviv to us, more beloved to us, more dear to us, we speak about first. And finally, we see the father telling the brother that you're never going to be as close to me as my son was, that showing the reason why a son inherits before the brothers of the deceased, because the son is the karev kaidam, the son is the closest. Now let's delve these three parts and drop deeper. Number one is we're dealing with this woman who's a pickpocketer. She's tired of being a giver and not getting anything. This reminds us of Yeshneichlenu Manchilin. The parak begins with the four permutations: those who give and get, those who get and don't give, those who don't get and don't give, and those who give and don't get. The four permutations. Now, this woman is in the category of she gives, she's a manchil, but she is not a noichel. That's how a mother is, and she's pickpocketing from the father that lost his son. And the father is upset, it's his dear son. And the reason is, we have a question. Why would the Mishnah first discuss the father inheriting a son? It should be the opposite. It's the more normal progression. Why start with peraniyos? And furthermore, the Torah talks about when one's father is nifter and not when one's son is nifter. And says the Gemara, because it's more chaviv. That which is learned from a drasha is more chaviv. So we speak about the case of the father losing his son. And finally, the father tells the brothers that you'll never be as close to me as the son was, and that's answering up a kasha, that the father comes before the brothers. Why? Because of Sheirai, his relative. The Gemara says, then wait, but the sons should so maybe the father should even come before the sons? Answers the Gemara, no, the sons, one's children, are the closest to him. Why? Hakaroiv. Teach us Hakaroiv, Karoiv, Kaidam. The son is the closest. And now the Gemara says the son is the closest, even more than the brothers of the deceased. Why? Because the son comes in the place of his father for two things. Number one, for Yiyud, and number two, for Ste'achuza, whereas the deceased brother only comes in his place for Yibum. So when we think of Kach, Dav Kov Ches, we think of taking, of pickpocketing. We remember this woman pickpocketing from her husband, from the father, because she always gives and she doesn't get, so she's upset. Remember the father that inherited his son. It's his dear son, teaching us that's the drasha. It's there for the Mishnah, list that case first. And finally, the father telling his brothers that you're never going to be as close to me as the son was, reminding us that one's son inherits first. Why? Because Karev, Kaidam, the son comes in the place of the father for Yiyud and Ste'achuza, whereas the deceased brother only comes in the place for Yibum, and there's no Yibum when there are children. Those are the three main details of Daf Kov Ches. Pickpocketing the wife, the mother, pickpocketing the father who's upset, and telling his brother that you'll never be as close as my son was.